just simply release this abuser in front of his victims back out on the street. While Attorney B was preparing for the morning's docket, he heard someone announce, "ICE is here." Shortly thereafter, Attorney B heard Judge Dugan say that she was going to call the chief judge. Members of the arrest team reported the following events after Judge Dugan learned of their presence and left the bench. Judge Dugan and Judge A, who were both wearing judicial robes, approached members of the arrest team in the public hallway. Judge A's courtroom was located adjacent to Judge Dugan's courtroom. Witnesses uniformly reported that Judge Dugan was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor. Don't mess with unelected black robe, tyrannical Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. Judge Dugan addressed Deportation Officer A and asked if he was present for a court appearance. He said no. Judge Dugan stated that Deportation Officer A would need to leave the courthouse. Does she have the authority to order a federal agent there to make an arrest to leave the courthouse? I would suggest not. Deportation Officer A said he was there to effectuate an arrest. Dugan asked if he had a judicial warrant. And he said, no, I have an administrative warrant. And as I've already shown you, he doesn't even need that. Did you know that in all 50 states, self-defense law, not gun law, but self-defense law, uses a simple 5-element test to see if your use of defensive force was legally justified? And that same test applies no matter what state you're in or what tool you use to defend yourself. If you're missing even one of those required elements, however, you've made yourself an easy conviction for an aggressive prosecutor. My name is Attorney Andrew Branca, and I've worked more than 30 years as a self-defense attorney. Every state has seemingly endless, complex pages of laws regarding self-defense, so complex that many top criminal defense attorneys rely on my expert analysis to help win self-defense cases for their clients. If the legal code is that complex for lawyers, how can a citizen gun owner expect to know or even follow the law, especially when a life or death situation has triggered a massive adrenaline-fueled mandate to make that fight or flight decision right now? It seems daunting. Yet I created a simple but powerful framework that has allowed me to serve the legal community and countless American gun owners to simplify this legal complexity into just 5 elements of self-defense law. And you can learn my 5-element legal algorithm I use to consult on and win with the top criminal defense attorneys all over the country to protect law-abiding gun-owning citizens from making innocent legal missteps that land them in prison. Now, with a simple read or listen, you can install my 5-point legal framework so it acts as a sort of muscle memory defense to protect you from losing your rights when you choose to defend innocent human life. Click below to get the latest edition of my book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, for free. I ask only that you help cover the shipping and handling cost to get the book to you. 8 U.S.C. 1357. Powers without a warrant. Powers without a warrant. Any officer or employee of the Immigration Service shall have power without a warrant to arrest any alien in his presence if he has reason to believe that the alien so arrested is in the U.S. in violation of any law or regulation and is likely to escape before a warrant can be obtained for his arrest. That's like every alien, especially this guy who's already been thrown out and came back and now is in criminal court on spouse abuse charges. So they don't need a warrant to arrest this guy, but fine, they went and got one anyway. It just wasn't good enough for this judge, Hannah Dugan. Hannah Dugan. Hannah Dugan. We all know her, of the Milwaukee Dugans, of the Milwaukee Diner Dugans. All right, back to the complaint. This job is just so much fun. All right, the Milwaukee ICE Removal Office was aware that on April 18th, Flores Ruiz was scheduled to attend a hearing in his criminal case in front of unelected, black robe, tyrannical Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah C. Dugan of the Milwaukee Dugans. They traveled to the Milwaukee County Courthouse with an arrest warrant in hand for Flores Ruiz, Milwaukee man. I'm aware that law enforcement routinely executes warrants and makes arrests in the public areas of buildings like the Milwaukee Courthouse. The reasons for this include not only they know the location of the wanted individual, but they know the individual entered through a security checkpoint and is thus unarmed, minimizing risk of injury to the public and the officers. They developed a plan to arrest Flores Ruiz in a public area outside courtroom 615 following his scheduled criminal court appearance before the unelected black robe tyrannical Milwaukee County Court Judge Dugan of the Milwaukee Diner Dugans. I'm aware that two prior arrests in public areas of the Milwaukee County Courthouse of individuals who were not lawfully present in the US had received public attention. Both incidents involved individuals who have been charged with criminal offenses, but who were not in custody and appearing for scheduled hearings in their criminal cases. I'm aware that pursuant to its policies made known to courthouse officials, the Milwaukee ICE Removal Task Force was focusing its resources on apprehending charged defendants making appearances in criminal cases, not arresting victims, not arresting witnesses, or individuals appearing for matters in family or civil court. Criminals are being targeted, illegal criminal migrants. 6 members of the task force plan to take part in the arrest of Flores Ruiz that April 18th, and they're named, well, anonymously. ICE Removal Deportation Officer A, Customs and Border Protection Officer A, FBI Special Agents A and B, Special Agents A and B. The agents were generally dressed in plain clothes and intended to effectuate the arrest in as low-key and safe a manner as possible. On 8 a.m., Deportation Officer A and Customs and Border Patrol Officer A arrived at the courthouse, presented identification to a security guard, explained they were present to make an arrest. Deportation Officer A and CBP Officer A were asked to show not only their credentials, but also their badges. The security guard stated that she needed to speak with a supervisor. She obstructed too. What do you think happened then? She spoke to her supervisor, and the supervisor called Judge Dugan, the unelected black robe tyrannical Milwaukee County Court Judge Hannah Dugan of the Milwaukee Diner Dugans. A shift sergeant with Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office was contacted, spoke to the deportation officer. They discussed the details of the planned arrest, including which courtroom Flores Ruiz was set to appear. The sergeant asked that any arrest wait until after completion of the hearing before Judge Dugan. Of course, the federal officers agreed, and they were allowed to proceed unescorted to the outside of courtroom 615. The other members of the arrest team were already present on the 6th floor public hallway when these officers arrived. So the team, they got the band back together. Everybody's outside courtroom 615. They advised the courtroom deputy inside the courtroom that law enforcement was there to arrest Flores Ruiz. They displayed credentials, informed him they were to make the arrest. They agreed the arrest would take place after the court appearance. The agents left the courtroom, took up positions at different locations in the public hallway. Case agents, investigators, have now interviewed the courtroom deputy who corroborated that information. The courtroom deputy opened the doors to the courtroom at 8:15, reported that individuals began checking in for the list of matters scheduled for the morning. The deputy had a list of individuals appearing that day, and the courtroom deputy checked in defendants while attorneys checked in with the clerk. The courtroom deputy explained that at approximately 8:15, FBI agents advised that they were working with ICE and planning to arrest Flores Ruiz. The courtroom deputy asked the agents to wait outside and arrest Flores after the hearing, and the agents agreed. The courtroom deputy told case agents that after an ICE arrest in the courthouse earlier that month, a shift sergeant had asked bailiffs to alert a supervisor at the sheriff's office if ICE agents were in the building. Accordingly, the courtroom deputy notified a shift sergeant. Arrest team members reported that while waiting outside of the courtroom, a woman approached and took photos of the arrest team members. They've been ratted out. DEA Agent B, who was inconspicuously seated away from the group, was not photographed. The individual began taking photographs of the agents has been identified by multiple witnesses as an attorney employed by the state of Wisconsin Public Defender's Office. Oh no, not the Public Defender's Office. I wonder if I'm persona non grata to the Wisconsin Public Defender's Office as I am to the Colorado Public Defender's Office. I await their 4-page, single spaced, hand typed, physically mailed letter to Law of Self-Defense LLC. Team members observed Flores Ruiz arrive in the 6th floor at approximately 8:43. Greeted by his attorney, he entered courtroom 615. Witnesses have described Judge Dugan's response to learning of ICE's presence. The courtroom deputy indicated that when Flores Ruiz arrived, Judge Dugan already was on the bench and conducting proceedings unrelated to his case. The courtroom deputy observed Attorney A, who had photographed the agents, enter and approach Judge Dugan's clerk. The attorney stated there appeared to be ICE agents in the hallway, told the clerk where the agents were seated and what they were wearing. Why is this not obstruction? Why is this attorney not being federally prosecuted? The courtroom deputy reported the clerk then got up and talked with Judge Dugan. Judge Dugan became visibly angry, commented that the situation was absurd, left the bench, and entered chambers. At the time, Flores Ruiz was seated in the gallery, the normal seating area of the courtroom. Another individual, Attorney B, was working as an assistant DA in Judge Dugan's courtroom. According to Attorney B, there were approximately 8 criminal cases, including Flores Ruiz's case, scheduled for pretrial hearings that morning. Attorney B was aware that the victims from Flores Ruiz's criminal case, brave enough to come to testify, were in the courtroom. It's terrifying for these victims of domestic abuse to come into court and testify because they're so often subject to reprisals by the abuser they testify against, who's given little or no actual punishment by the court, just like this Judge Hannah Dugan, the unelected black robe tyrannical Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan of the Milwaukee Dugans was about to do. Just simply release this abuser in front of his victims back out on the street. While Attorney B was preparing for the morning's docket, he heard someone announce, ICE is here. Shortly thereafter, Attorney B heard Judge Dugan say that she was going to call the chief judge. Members of the arrest team reported the following events after Judge Dugan learned of their presence and left the bench. Judge Dugan and Judge A, who were both wearing judicial robes, approached members of the arrest team in the public hallway. Judge A's courtroom was located adjacent to Judge Dugan's courtroom. Witnesses uniformly reported that Judge Dugan was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor. Don't mess with unelected black robe tyrannical Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. Judge Dugan addressed Deportation Officer A and asked if he was present for a court appearance. He said no. Judge Dugan stated that Deportation Officer A would need to leave the courthouse. Does she have the authority to order a federal agent there to make an arrest to leave the courthouse? I would suggest not. Deportation Officer A said he was there to effectuate an arrest. Dugan asked if he had a judicial warrant. And he said, no, I have an administrative warrant. And as I've already shown you, he doesn't even need that. Judge Dugan stated that the officer needed a judicial warrant. Nonsense. He told the judge, I'm in a public space. I have a valid immigration warrant. The judge asked to see it, and the officer offered to show it to her. The Judge Dugan then demanded the officer speak with this chief judge. Judge Dugan then had a similar interaction with the FBI agent B and Border Patrol agent A. After finding out they were not present for a court appearance and they were with ICE, she ordered them to report to the principal's office. Judge A then escorted the members of the arrest team away from courtroom 615, Judge Dugan's courtroom, through a set of double doors to the reception area for the chief judge's office. DEA agent B, who was not recognized by Judge Dugan and Judge A as being part of the arrest team, remained outside of the courtroom. The courtroom deputy reported observing a portion of the above described events in the hallway. According to the courtroom deputy, who it appears is not prepared to go to federal prison for Judge Hannah Dugan, shortly after Judge Dugan was advised of ICE's presence, the courtroom deputy left the courtroom to look for an unrelated defendant, whom the courtroom deputy was seeking to arrest for an open warrant. So he was about to arrest a criminal defendant on an open warrant in the courthouse. The courtroom deputy saw Judge Hannah Dugan in her robe in the public hallway, telling a federal agent he needed to go talk to the chief judge. She appeared visibly angry and was walking quickly. I mean, let's be honest. How quick could that thing walk? As soon as the agent entered the chief judge's vestibule area, they saw Judge Dugan walk south down the hallway and enter a locked door near courtroom 615. I'm familiar with the floor plan for the courthouse and believe the door Judge Dugan entered led to a non-public hallway from which she could access her courtroom and chambers. DEA agent B had remained in the hallway and not been recognized as a member of the arrest team. He reported Judge Dugan walked around the hallway and appeared to be looking for additional agents before she returned to her courtroom. This is all like consciousness of guilt evidence. Once inside the office of the chief judge, the federal officer showed the judge his credentials and the warrant, asked the chief judge's clerk to make a copy of the warrant, asked whether the chief judge was available. The clerk advised the chief judge was not in the building, but later advised he was on the phone. At that point, the Judge A left, and deportation officer A went inside a more private area of the chief judge's office to speak with him on the phone. The chief judge stated he was working on a policy which would dictate locations within the courthouse where ICE could safely conduct enforcement actions, emphasized such actions should not take place in courtrooms or other private locations within the building. What about in a hallway? The chief judge indicated that hallways are public areas. When the chief judge expressed interest in talking to the ICE removal team about this policy, deportation officer A provided him with contact information for his field office director. While deportation officer was speaking with the chief judge, other federal agents waited in the vestibule area outside the chief judge's office. They departed the area after a short while. Judge Hannah Dugan's courtroom deputy then approached the remaining arrest teams, stated that the courtroom deputy was not the one who had notified Judge Dugan about their arrest plans. This deputy really does not want to go to federal prison. The courtroom deputy also made a comment about Judge Dugan pushing Flores Ruiz's case through, which the arrest team interpreted to mean that Judge Dugan was attempting to expedite and release Flores Ruiz. Judge Dugan? It's almost like a Harry Potter novel. Judge Dugan escorts Flores Ruiz through a jury door to avoid his arrest. Multiple witnesses have described their observation that after Judge Dugan returned to her courtroom, after directing members of the arrest team to the chief judge's office, the courtroom deputy recalled that the courtroom's deputy returned to the courtroom. Defense counsel for Flores Ruiz was talking to the clerk, and Flores Ruiz was seated in the jury box rather than in the gallery. That's not where criminal defendants await for their hearing, in the jury box. That's gross. The courtroom deputy believed that counsel and the clerk were having an off-the-record conversation to pick the next court date. Defense counsel and Flores Ruiz then walked towards each other and towards the public courtroom exit. So they were going to exit through the normal door. The courtroom deputy then saw Judge Dugan get up and heard Judge Dugan say something like, wait, come with me. Despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Hannah Dugan, the unelected black-robed, tyrannical Milwaukee County Court Judge Dugan of the Milwaukee Dugans, then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, surreptitiously, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. absolute obstruction. Absolute. These events were also unusual for two reasons. First, the courtroom deputy had previously heard Judge Dugan direct people not to sit in the jury box because it was exclusively for the jury's use. Yes, no kidding. Second, according to the courtroom deputy, only deputies, juries, court staff, and in custody defendants being escorted by deputies used the back jury door. Defense attorneys and defendants who were not in custody never used the jury door. It's just outrageous. So palpable. The guilt. Thanks for watching this highlight segment of our full-length Law of Self-Defense live stream. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give us a like and subscribe for more expert analysis on politics, law, and how to be hard to convict. And to watch the full-length episode of this show, just click right here. Stay safe.